Let's go to CJ in the city. Hey, CJ, what's going on? You on with Willard and Dibs?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Excellent, man.
So here's what I think. As far as what's going on with Klay Thompson and the reaction from the fan base, I think the main thing is because Stephen Curry is still playing at an MVP caliber level right now. That's the first thing you got to take into account. Secondly, even though Wiggs is in a little bit of a slump right now, the effort's there. His teammates are getting him the balls in the spots where he kind of has to score, sort of in that low post, and they're making it as easy as possible on him to do that. What I'm more concerned about as far as what happens with OKC on Saturday is how switchable is Kevon Looney outside of the paint. Like, he clearly can't stay with some of these bigger dudes, and just watching them get out and transition the whole time, I'm like, what's going on? So do you think it makes sense to put, Trace Jackson Davis down in the post to get more physical with Chet? I'm just curious. What do you guys think?
The defensive conundrum, and this is also something that we'd love to ask Steve about. The defensive conundrum, by the way, I want to jump out. I missed one game. Jordan has scored 20 twice.
Oh, okay.
Twice. Not once, twice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Apology accepted.
The defense, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The defense is a real conundrum right now, and I have to say that I did not have on my bingo card that Kevon Looney would be a problem this year on the defensive end. But too much is being asked of someone because of how small they are. And you could argue, well, hang on, they were always that way. I would put it this way. I think it's still too early to sort of make that general statement because defensive rotations take time when you have new players, and they're getting stunted right now because of how many games they're playing without key players. So mainly we're talking about Draymond, who has, with ejections, has he missed 4 games? 3? 4?
I think 3.
Okay. So I think that those rotations with a new starting lineup at times and players missing games, those are going to take time. I still think that Kevon Looney's defense, it's been a plus for the Warriors for years now, and I think it still can be. But with the age that's taking place on the perimeter, it's leading down the road of a chain link fence where too much is being asked of him on the inside. And yes, right now they are a defensive mess as a group.
12th in the league in terms of points allowed at 112.1. They're not elite. They're not toward the bottom of the rung, but they have had some tough matchups in terms of teams with a lot of athletic bigs. Minnesota's a terrible matchup. Cleveland's a team that's bigger, longer, more athletic. But Kevon Looney's going to have this difficulty all year long. If you're 6'9", and you are basically the center on your team, and I know that Saric is a little bit bigger, but he doesn't play like a traditional center in terms of defense, you're going to have to junk it up a little bit. And I'll ask Steve Kerr this very question in terms of defense when you've got Chris out there and Steph when he comes back, and you have a smaller team compared to other teams. Do you need to play more zone? Do you need to junk it up a little bit more? How do you do the exact thing that the caller was talking about? Protect Kevon Looney and protect the lack of size that you have defensively.
Yeah, and not only you say athletic big men, but also maybe even simplify it. Just really big men. Those are Minnesota, Denver, the teams, Cleveland that you've been looking at are some of the largest size teams. And they've been a lot of the Warriors games, especially recently. So, yes, the defense is a work in progress. I'm not solely focused on Kevon. I'm focused on the whole flow and the rotations, which right now are out of whack.
Yeah, and they're out of whack because you don't have Steph and Draymond's missed games, and you're right about that. And you still haven't totally figured out how to, make the substitutions defensively. And when you don't have GP2, and they won't tonight, it looks like, he's out with the ankle issue. And so he's one of your best defenders. Andrew Wiggins, I think, has played pretty well on defense.
Doing okay.
If I'm going to, spend the next 22 seconds complimenting Andrew Wiggins for the first and only time today, defensively, I think he's done a pretty good job. And he always has a difficult task because Klay's not the defender that he once was. Neither is Chris. Neither is Steph Curry. So Wiggins has to always guard, one of the other best wing players or the best wing player on the other team, and that takes a lot out of you.
Yeah. Boy, what a week, huh? Remember at the start of the week?
They were rolling.
How the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
I will say this, and this is not to create an excuse, but I do think to a degree, this particular Warrior team, I'm going to blow off how they look when Steph's not there. Because if Steph's not there, they're just not a very good team. And maybe that means that they are too thin and relying too much on one player. Maybe. And maybe that'll get them in the end. I mean, if you're relying completely on a 35, 36-year-old player, maybe that's just a ludicrous thought. I'll acknowledge that. But where they sit right now, I do not think it's a team that can win very many basketball games without Steph Curry on the floor. That's just sort of the reality of at least the moment.
Well, and that's fair, but think about that in terms of any other team and their best player. When a team's best player doesn't play, their chance of winning goes down. Now, for the Warriors, maybe it goes down more than any other team just by the nature of the fact that he is this much of a great player as their best player, and also what he means for Klay Thompson in particular, because Klay doesn't seem to play great when he's not on the floor. I'm looking at last year's game log, and man, I'll have the record for you momentarily as far as games that Steph didn't play.
Yep.
I'm just going through from the beginning. A loss to New Orleans, another loss to New Orleans by 45, a loss to Utah, that's 0-3. They lost to Philly, 0-4, 1-4, 1-6, 5-game win streak without him. 6-6. Then they go to 6-8, 7-8, 8-8, 8-10, 10-12, and 14-12 without him last year. So they were able to weather the storm because he missed that big block of games in December and early January, and then he missed another 10 or so games in February.
Yeah, I mean, scoring was less of a problem last year when he was out. Part of that is Jordan. There's no question about that. I also think it's just like this team has the possibility of being better down the road or more functional without him than it is right now. I just don't think with the defensive rotations, the way they are, you're going to have to outscore people when there's no Steph, and you don't have enough scoring to do that. Let's go to David in Hayward. Hey, David, what's up? You're on with Willard and Dibs.
Yeah, I think I've been listening to you guys talk. You mentioned something earlier about the IQ of the Warriors, that when rookies come in there, it's hard for them to pick up the offense and pick up the defense, right? Because of the way that they play, the motion offense and the way they run that team. No other NBA team really plays like that. Okay, maybe the Kings a little bit, but so the expectation to learn quickly is something that they are kind of messes them up. It's almost like they have to have people that can come in with the right IQ to play with them, right? So I think that Sarge has it. I think Moody has it. Kuminga don't have it yet. There's not enough people that had that, and plus the size. But I think if the IQ was better, all the teams that they won championships with, they had a high IQ, right? And the players knew what to do, and they knew when to pass the ball, when to do it. I mean, it was organized chaos, but it worked because of the high IQ, right? And I think that's the problem that players like Jordan Poole, he just didn't have. He's just not a very smart basketball player. And Wiseman was just ridiculous, not very smart. So I think that's part of the issue too. And everybody knows they're not going to win too many games unless Curry's out there motivating them and doing what he does, and then that sparks that lights the fire. So that's all I got to say.
David, are you listening to yourself on the radio or on YouTube right now? Is that what's happening?
To me.
Yeah, all I hear is Dibs in the background, and he's right here.
Oh. Okay, I'll just turn it off.
No, David, turn it up. I didn't realize I talked that much.
Seriously.
David, that's too much of me.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to say this once and once only, but
stop talking so much.
You need to talk more on this show. Man,
what kind of monologue was that going on in the background?
I didn't know I was talk blocking you that much.
I think he had you on repeat.
He must have.
Yeah,
I think
that was on a loop.
It's a lot of
You've
dimmer
never
in the background.
talked that long in your life.
Totally, it was too much. Can't stand it.
All right.
I didn't listen to a word he said. I was trying to pick up on me.
I caught something that he said. He's talking about IQ. And it is a very fair point that I would love everybody who screams about the young people, play the young people, play the young.
I love the young people.
Okay, if you love the young people, then what are your thoughts on high IQ basketball? Go ahead. We've done this before. Give me the example of the team that won a championship relying on 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
Go ahead, find it. We'll be right here waiting for you. And we'll still be here at 6 o'clock because you'll still be looking. You can't play high IQ basketball with 22-year-olds. They can be a piece. They can be a piece if they pick it up quick. But they cannot be the centerpieces. And by the way, yes, it's okay to look at young players, 20, 21, 22, and say, you can't get a lot of minutes until you pick this up. And by the way, just as an example, because the Warriors have a bunch of high IQ basketball players, right? Curry.
Sure. Draymond, Chris Paul.
Holy hell, Klay. Looney, very high IQ basketball player. Very high IQ basketball player. Jordan Poole. Jonathan Kuminga. James Wiseman. I would not give them that label.
Well, how could you when James Wiseman played 42 minutes of college basketball and Jonathan Kuminga didn't play college? He played 1 year of tweener ball and then immediately came into the association.